Some of my favorite memories on a hunt are actually those sitting around the campfire telling stories. We all hope to tell that story of that giant buck we shot that day. But most of the time, lies are told about how big he was, and yet somehow he got away. However, my 2015 archery hunt was a story that I've never heard told. As a hunter, conservation is my number one goal. And it's not every day a mule deer hunt can be filled with feelings of sadness and acts of compassion. Scouting in late July was everything I had hoped for, and I turned up some awesome bucks. But it's what happened in August that I could have never predicted. Wildfire tore across the Pacific Northwest, burning everything in its path. People lost their houses, their farms, their livestock. I personally know people whose houses burnt to the ground. And on top of all that, we lost thousands of acres of wildlife habitat. There was this buck I called Tim, and the fire had burned up quite a bit of the area that I hunt, but it didn't burn up his little finger canyon. So on opening day, I made my attempt at Tim, and things just didn't quite work out. Well, that was the only spot I knew of that wasn't burnt up. So we decided to head over and check out the burn and see if we could find any deer. As I walked with my father through the rocks and dust, it felt like I was on the moon. There was zero plant life or wildlife left in sight. But the sad part is when we looked hard enough, we found what we didn't want to see. Deer that didn't make it out alive. Deer that made it out alive, but wish they hadn't. We found 2 different bucks that miraculously survived the fire, but barely. One was burnt so bad he could hardly walk on his hind legs, and another one seemed to have broken his front leg. It didn't take long for Dad and I to decide that we needed to put our tags on these bucks. I hope people understand that even though I am a hunter, it truly saddens me to see these animals in such discomfort. I believe that as a hunter and a true conservationist, that it was my responsibility to relieve these animals from their suffering. With the wind blowing over 30 miles an hour, and the buck lowering his head every time he winced in pain, it was the perfect opportunity for Dad to move in close.
Did you see him go down? You're singed. You're singed. You're singed.
After Dad took the first buck, we headed down into the canyon in search of the second one that we had seen before. We spotted him right over here, and he's just right over this little lip. He's 40 yards from here, still laying down, not doing well. His face looks really badly burned. So we're gonna walk up here and finish him.
She shoot it. .42. You get him again? Yeah. That's a good shot there.
We weren't really hunting these burns, but we just kind of come to check it out. You know, we've hunted these areas before, and we found this old monarch, and then that other really nice mature buck that didn't make it out in time. And these, I mean, this one's back foot's all just so swollen and singed, and I mean his whole body is singed. You can see his ears are cooked, literally cooked. And I mean, they weren't gonna make it. And I mean, you feel bad for them. There's just, I mean, and yeah, this is a nice buck, and that other one was a nice buck, but truthfully, these are the only two bucks that we've seen that have been singed. And we felt bad for them, and at least we put our tags on them. The meat looks, at least on the first deer, the meat looked to be okay. We'll see what this one looks like when we open him up. I am proud to be a hunter and a conservationist. As many of you know, the act of hunting is only a part of being a hunter. I truly love the land we live in and the wildlife we share it with. I've been a part of some great conservation programs such as the Ducks Unlimited, the Mule Deer Foundation, the Elk Foundation, and the Wild Sheep Foundation. I've spent dollars at auctions. I've sponsored sheep to be put on the mountain, as well as volunteered with some hands-on projects. But the act of compassion my father and I showed that day, I will forever remember as the most gut-wrenching act of conservation I've ever encountered.